It's about 3 a.m. here in Detroit, and I'm experiencing some segmented sleep. I woke up. It's not unusual for me. Last little while, I've been having a lot of segmented sleep, and I'll go to bed. I'll wake up a couple hours later. Might stay up for an hour or two, then go back to bed for another few hours. Not exactly sure what's provoking this kind of segmented sleep cycle. Apparently, it's really the natural human way to sleep, but I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit restless, and I know tonight there's at least one reason, probably several, that's prompted my wakefulness. One of those is purely physical. I left my asthma medication in my checked bag, which I realize now is a mistake because I'm already starting to feel the physical effects. My lungs are having to work harder to breathe normal, and so there's that aspect. The other part is just psychological. I feel like glad that I responded yesterday evening to what was a situation where I obviously was being blocked from going to New York yesterday, and I know there was, I wasn't the only one in that boat, but I feel like it's important to respond to those things. One of the things that I was reminded of yesterday, and I don't think I'll ever forget it now, and I know I'm not the only one. I heard from a colleague last night who mentioned the same thing and told me that there was one of the students at Red Crow that was concerned today, that expressed this concern to him, that told him that she hoped that I didn't try to push it, if anything was blocking me from going to New York. And the reason that that this is so prominent in all of our thoughts these days is because of what just so recently happened to my friend Narcissus. One of the things that went on around Narcissus's tragic mortal accident was that when he left to go on that trip, see, he had gone to Regina in Saskatchewan, and so he'd driven from home on the Blood Reserve up to Calgary to get on an airplane to go to Regina, where he died in the car accident. But he had written on Facebook that day that he'd gotten about halfway to Calgary and realized that he forgot his wallet. So he drove all the way back home and got his wallet, and then went on his way. But, for all of us back home, we thought, that was the sign that he missed. And it's easy for us to miss these things because we're living embedded in a culture that tells us to stick with the agenda at whatever cost, and to not be superstitious. This is what the culture tells us, and there's a lot of pressure to conform to that. And so for Narcissus that day, he turned around, drove all the way home, like at least an hour back home, got his wallet and left again. and we all wish that maybe he had missed that flight. And so, with all the things that were going on yesterday, I'm not saying that something bad would have happened to me, but I feel better having responded to it, and knowing that I wasn't just going to keep pushing an agenda when obviously it wasn't safe to go to New York last night. I mean, an airplane actually slid off the runway in LaGuardia, and they were lucky that they didn't end up in the water. So it just wasn't meant to be yesterday. And the airline and the people, because of our culture, were continuing to push it. They were, if it was possible, they were going to make it be, even though it was clearly time to just sit back and not push that agenda. And so I didn't respond to the first notification when I was out on the airplane on the tarmac, and they turned us back and brought us into the back to the terminal. That should have been enough. That was enough for Mahoney. She wanted me to come home at that point. But I decided to wait it out and see, what could happen from there. And they got me on another plane, and that plane took off to New York, but ended up landing in Detroit. Now, if that's not enough, I mean, they wanted me to sit there in Detroit and wait and see, and maybe I'd get back on the plane and go to LaGuardia, and it was clearly not a good idea to go to LaGuardia yesterday. So I don't know what's going to happen today. I think one thing that's going to happen is I'm going to participate in the think tank from here in Detroit. I'm going to get on via Skype and participate in it in that respect. But I did email my hosts just before turning on this recording, and I let them know that from this point I feel like I already did my diligence in responding to the situation. I feel like I feel better having done that, and I'm grateful for them allowing me to do that. And they put me up in this room and let me charge my dinner to the room. And so from here, it can go one of two ways. Either they can send me directly home, which I know Mahoney would be happy for, or they can bring me to New York, and I can keep my itinerary for Monday's return home. And I'm happy to do whatever from here is financially better for them, because I know they're operating off of a grant, and I'm already costing them extra dollars that they weren't expecting to spend. And so, for them, I want to be flexible and do whatever is best, whatever is going to help them spend their dollars most wisely and appropriately. And so if it works out better for them to bring me to New York tomorrow, if that's less expensive than changing my itinerary, dropping my Monday itinerary, and just sending me to Great Falls, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. So just left myself open for whatever comes, but I'm happy that I did walk away from the airplane or the airport when it obviously just wasn't meant to be yesterday.